Right. Today's introductory webinar is about mistakes, common mistakes that people make when they are speaking and writing sometimes in English. What I will do first, I will send you a little quiz, okay? And the quiz is called Common Mistakes Quiz. So you should have that file now, okay? If you could download it and have a look at it. Now what I'd like you to do is, after the webinar, I would like you to read this quiz and to try and answer the questions. Because if you feel that you have trouble with this quiz, then you definitely need more help with your mistakes in English. You definitely need more help. Okay. So after the webinar, if you could please take a minute to answer those questions. Okay. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice about learning English as a language. Many people are different. But to learn English, you need to learn vocabulary. And the first mistake that people make when they're learning vocabulary is that they make a big list of words with a big list of translations next to it. And you learn the translation by, we say in English, by heart. And that means you just learn one word and the translation. But what happens is, you're learning for a test, for example, when you were at school or even at university. And the moment you've taken a test, you forget the words. You forget the vocabulary straight away. The only good way to learn vocabulary like this is to activate, if I could spell properly, activate the vocabulary. Activate the vocabulary. Now the way you do this is by actually using the vocabulary itself. The way you use it is you find synonyms for the vocabulary, which helps you explain it. And you learn how to explain what the word means, to define the word. And then, once you can define the word, you will remember it. And if you use it, you will remember it. It's called activation of vocabulary. Other advice, watching films. Every English teacher will tell you to watch films. But I can give you a little bit more extra advice for watching films. Don't go and watch a film that you have never seen before. Try to watch a film that you know exactly what happens, exactly what the people are saying. And then, when you hear it in English, if it's a native English film, then you will make an association between what they're saying and your native language. Okay. Now, my Russian is terrible, but I have never ever taken a lesson in Russian, never in my life. Well, I tell a lie. I took one lesson, and it was crazy. So the only place I learnt Russian was speaking to people in shops, my friends in the bar, and generally listening to people. Now the way I learn personally is by listening to people. I don't learn grammar rules, I learn what to say in a certain situation. Because when you start to translate, that's when you make mistakes. You learn the correct answer for the question. Okay? I only have one little problem with this system. That is, I find it hard to start a conversation because I don't know the question to ask. But for everyday English, it's a very, very good way to learn. Okay? And in speaking, everybody makes mistakes. but there are 10 definite mistakes that people make, and today I'll quickly tell you about the mistakes, and then what we will do is we will concentrate on one exact theme, and I will try and help you with that. And the other errors, mistakes, we will look at in the next webinars. Okay? So, we have a new person. Hello, Ludmilla. Say hello. Can you say hello? Type a message. Okay. So, the first mistake that people make. Now, one of my favourite films, well, I would say probably my favourite film, is a film called Star Wars. I think everybody knows that film. Everyone. Now, one of the heroes in the film is a little green man, and he's called Yoda. And people like him because he's a very likeable character. But also, he makes a lot of mistakes in English. And the main mistake that he makes is his word order. Okay? Word order. Word order. Now, for example, in Russian, as far as I understand, word order is not so important. Not so important. But in English, it's very, very, very important. Okay, I'll give you an example of a sentence. What I can do to improve my English. I'm not using my normal keyboard, so I'm a bit slow typing today. What I can do to improve my English. And a different sentence. What can I do to improve my English? Okay. Now, the word order completely changes both the meaning of both these sentences. Okay? So this is one main mistake that people make. The next mistake that people make is using nouns and countable and uncountable nouns. And this is what we're actually going to look at today. But we'll come back to that in a little while. Okay. The third biggest mistake, word choice. Word choice. And I'll write you a little example there. I love Disneyland. I love Disneyland. It's very funny. Okay. Now, it may seem right, the word funny, but it's the wrong choice of word to describe what they want. Okay. The fourth big mistake, repetition of the subject. Okay? And what happens is, some people, they use a noun as the subject of a sentence, but they feel that they need to add a pronoun right after it. Okay? For example, my company, it is big. Okay. The next mistake, subject and verb agreement. Now this is a very big problem in both speaking and writing. Okay? If you want to make a better impression when you're speaking, this is a very good way to make a good impression. So, for example, he have a lot of money. He have a lot of money. The subject and the verb don't agree. But we'll look at that in the future in future webinars. Okay. Sixth big error. Okay. Prepositions. We all love prepositions. For me, it's very easy. But for a non-native speaker, it seems a little crazy. It may not be the same rules as Russian or a different language. Now, we will look at how to use prepositions and simple ways to find whether you should use on, at, or in. Okay. 7th biggest mistake, pronouns. People get confused with pronouns. Okay. I'll give you an example. I'll just write an example for you now. My mother told me she broke your leg. Okay. Now, the mistake in the pronoun completely changes the meaning of the sentence. And a common answer in English to this sentence would be, your mother did what? Okay. Next common error. Using words that are very similar in your native language to English, but actually have a different meaning, a very different meaning. And we will look at those different words, okay? 9, something that seems very simple, but it's actually very, very important. And this can change people's opinion of you, not just people's actual opinion of your English, but it can actually change how a person thinks about you. Well, for example, in Russian you have a certain way to speak to people, like you would speak to your boss using different words than you would speak to your friend, or you would speak to your teacher using more polite words or more polite forms of words than you would speaking to your friend again. Now we have the same situation in English, but it's generally the phrases we use are different for different situations. Okay, and the last big mistake is using the wrong stress in words. Okay, now this happens when you say something perfectly correctly. Your grammar is absolutely perfect. Your pronunciation is absolutely perfect. But you put the stress on the wrong word, and it can completely change the meaning of the actual words. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to now forward you a file, okay? And this is about countable and uncountable nouns. Now, for me, this is the biggest error that people make. The biggest error that people make. I'll just forward that to you now. There you go, you should have that file. Okay. Well, actually, what I'll do is, I'll actually open it on the screen. Just one moment, so you can see. So it's on the screen as well, just in case. Okay. Now then, I'll give you an example. Countable and uncountable nouns. I read a newspaper. In modern times, I read the newspaper on the internet, and the newspaper is called The Guardian. It's an English newspaper. And with every article, there is a comment section at the bottom. And we have people from many different countries writing comments in English. Now, we have some people who write comments and they are not British, but they pretend to be British. But they make some, what we call, glaring mistakes. I can't spell mistakes. There we go, glaring mistakes. A huge, obvious mistake that is obvious to a non-native speaker, but is not obvious to the person writing. Now, these mistakes sometimes are just genuine mistakes, but sometimes they come from the way they have been taught Russian. Now, I'll give you one example. The word proof. Okay. So, Edward, Ludmilla, can you tell me, what do you think the word proof means? Or have a think about the word proof. Okay. Proof is a piece of information which shows that something is right or wrong. Okay. Now, proof in English is uncountable. Now, in Russian, is it countable or uncountable? It's countable. Okay. So proof, the word proof in Russian is countable, but in English it's uncountable. And this is where the mistakes come. That people assume because in your native language it's countable, in a different language it's countable too. Okay? So, reading in the Guardian newspaper, people are writing about proofs, using the word proofs. I'll write this example sentence. There is no proofs. Now, it seems like a perfectly normal sentence, and it looks okay, but it is obvious it has not been written by a native speaker because of this mistake. For me, this is the biggest error, the biggest error that people make, the biggest error. Okay, now, countable or uncountable. So let's have a look at, if you have a look on the screen, there is a table with many and much, countable or uncountable. Okay. So let's see what we think. What I want you to do is, I will tell you the noun, and I want you to write in your little message part whether it's you, which means uncountable, or C, which is countable. I'm going to play it like a little quiz, okay? So, please make some sign that you understand what I want you to do. Okay, well, let's continue anyway. Right then, the first two here are done for you. Many is always countable. So many of something is countable, and much of something is uncountable. Easy, as we say in English, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay. So, dollars, dollar. It's a plural. The plural of dollar is dollars. You can count dollars. $1, $2, $3, $4, $1,000, $2 million. It's possible to count it. So, if you can count it, it's countable. We use many for dollars, okay? Money. Now then, money. You can count a currency, dollars, pounds, euros, rubles, but you can't count money itself. Okay? There is no plural of money. So if there is no plural, it's uncountable. Okay. So, child. Child. Okay. Edward, Ludmilla, what do you think? Child, countable? Okay. Ludmilla, are you there? What do you say? Countable or uncountable? Okay. There is a plural of child, and it is children. Okay? So children equals C, countable. My friend, for example, has Too many children.